Welcome to Brainstoryum. I'm Anna Tizard, award-winning dreampunk and deeply weird fantasy author. And yes, that's me and my fiction that's deeply weird. Explore and imagine with me the most unexpected story ideas using the surrealist word game of Exquisite Corpse. Find out more and join in at annatizard.com. This is a storytelling challenge unlike anything you've tried before. Hello, imaginative people. I'm Anna Tizard, and this is episode 91 of Brainstoryum. Well, today I am especially excited to share with you the incredible responses I got from listeners on the two writing prompts I suggested in the last show. One is going to get us in the mood for Halloween. The other is more odd, more quirky. These microfiction responses have been coming in thick and fast, and they just keep getting better and better. I feel so proud of my listeners. But first, I always like a little bit of chin stroking on the writing life and writing tips. Regular listener and contributor of Words to the Socks of Destiny, Paul Benfield, responded to my previous discussion on handwriting versus typing and had some interesting points and practical tips. He said, "I'm a computer scientist, so typing is much more part of my life than handwriting. And like some of the other commenters on the previous episode, I have terrible handwriting. However, despite my obvious affinity with the digital world, I do handwrite some of my creative content. Mostly I use pen and paper to generate ideas and to plan future plots. I do this to disconnect. I hate typing on a smartphone, so when I'm at a coffee shop or on the beach, I'd rather just have a trusty notebook and daydream up new ideas. It's also about life balance and disconnecting from screens more regularly." Good point there, Paul, about disconnecting. Daydreaming is such a vital part of inspiration and kind of feeds into that state of mind we need to get into when we're looking for inspiration. And yes, in a way, because we spend so much of our lives in front of a screen for work, for almost everything, it does make intuitive sense that to disconnect from one is to disconnect from the other, and all the obligations and distractions of normal life, so we can enter a freer mode of thinking with a notebook in front of us. Paul added, "In terms of keeping organised," okay, so this is something I was asking help with, "I usually manage to type up any ideas worth keeping once a week. Sunday mornings are good for this kind of creative admin. I'm very conscious of not losing work to a spilled coffee or lost notebook. When in the past we managed a holiday, I'd sometimes take photos of the pages I'd written as an easy and rough and ready backup of the work. I imagine there's even various websites and services that offer AI-driven transcription of handwritten notes these days. Not something I've tried yet, but it could be a good future solution to save time on typing up." Great tips there, and very conscientious. Thanks for your reflections on this, Paul. You've actually taken me back to my days pre-pandemic when I used to take the bus to work every day, and it was a bit of a crush. I didn't have a laptop, and if I did, I probably wouldn't want to risk it. I also don't like typing on a smartphone, so I handwrote drafts in an A4 pad on the way to work, and then the weekends were consolidation time, typing up to transfer and edit as I went. Overall, it was a much slower method, and I'm very grateful for having more time these days in front of the computer at home. But I see the benefit of sometimes, as you say, Paul, disconnecting from the screen. There is something in that. And this is taking me on a bit of a tangent because I've often wondered if the rise of the digital world and of our seemingly never-ending screen time might in some subtle way increase the value of tactile things, physical things like notebooks or paperbacks, even if a lot of people seem to think the opposite, that digital is taking over. But when ebooks first came out, loads of people were bewailing the death of the paperback as if that were completely inevitable and in some sense had already happened. But I think people will always like paperbacks. I love my Kindle, but I also enjoy reading physical books. In some way, maybe there is more of a novelty factor to holding a physical book in my hands. Maybe I appreciate it more than I used to because I also read ebooks. And while a part of me sometimes worries that, I'm going to sound old now, worries that young people who've grown up with the internet and mobile phones and don't know any different and haven't learned to daydream in the way that my generation often had no choice but to daydream on a bus, walking down the street, or in a waiting room with nothing but boring old newspapers in it. Trust me, we did a lot of daydreaming in the 80s and 90s. Whenever something rises up that seems extreme, always its opposite shall arise too. There is no light without shadow. Trends that grow really big tend to go as far as they possibly can, and then there's always a counter to that. The balance in the universe has to reassert itself when something goes too far. People will always enjoy real-life experiences and fantasy. And maybe someone who gets completely hooked on screen time to the point that it becomes detrimental to their mental health and relationships, maybe that's the one person who's motivated enough to pull themselves out of it, and then once they've tasted it, they'll appreciate more than anyone the living art of daydreaming. The joy of disconnecting and the creativity that comes with that. For the rest of us, let's keep the balance so the pendulum doesn't swing too far one way or the other. Now, in the last show, I couldn't quite make up my mind between two prompts that came up, so I invited you to respond to whichever one sparked off ideas for you. I'm not sorry I did this, because what came back was some really fantastic microfiction and short story ideas. The first prompt was the murderous blood moon to get us into the Halloween mood. Paul Monteith wrote, "A murderous blood moon. Celine, the sunlit night orb, reluctantly put on blood-red umber as the earth slipped between her and the sun. Like a shape-shifting man transforming into a murderous werewolf, Celine became a bloodthirsty creature of the night. The umber assisted her inner beast until, overpowered, she succumbed to the ravenous predator within. Breathing death threats and bodily harm, Celine drove her crimson horse-drawn chariot furiously into the night to kill and lay waste to the mudwalkers below." Wow, this is just so atmospheric. Reading it feels like you're sweeping through images in a Gothic-style comic book that's coming alive. Or maybe I'm thinking like that because my own story interpretation of the murderous blood moon in show 90 involved a comic book shop full of dark stories. But I love this. Thank you, Paul Monteith, for really capturing the mood. It's very vivid. Patrick Towie wrote, When astronauts land on the moon when it is red, they become murderers after returning to Earth. No one knows why. This is an intriguing idea, and I love that it flips the accepted science that a blood moon is red because of an optical illusion. You've found a new fantastical explanation for it. In a way, isn't that what we all do through fantasy writing? Find a new made-up reason for something and then follow it along a new path of logic? Thank you, Patrick. You've got me chin-stroking again. Now we move to interpretations of the other writing prompt, which was the forgetful elevator. Paul Macmillan, also known as Bookmarks Love and Law on X, wrote, "At Hotel de la Lune, the elevator had the memory of a politician's promise, thin, slippery, and soon gone. It forgot floors, directions, even the purpose of doors. Marcel, the bellman, coaxed it gently, as if steadying a wild thing. Up, Gaston, but not into the attic." The guests laughed at its quirks. Marcel did too, just less loudly, since he was the one preventing a scenic detour to the boiler room. Oh, you've got a real character emerging here. And while there's a touch of humour, there's something disconcerting about this elevator with a mind of its own. Maybe it's the comparison to a politician's promise at the beginning, or the part about forgetting the purpose of doors. But there's a hint of danger about this, lurking under the light-hearted laughter. Thank you, Paul Macmillan. I am intrigued. Nick Vrakar wrote, "The Hamblin Hotel was haunted, and new travellers ought to be wary of the spirits within, like Gus, the ghost of a bellhop, who would bring you a luggage cart. Nancy, the maid, haunted the halls, sweeping as she floated by. Donna haunted the bar, a spirit of spirits." Nick added, "Edward haunted the elevator. You wouldn't see him, but you could ask him to bring you to a floor. You'd say, 'Edward, 4th floor, please.' He would bring you to the 6th floor or the 8th. He spends most of his time on the 5th floor. He likes the 5th floor." This is absolutely classic. Just a whole range of ghosts with their own particular ways, getting on with their own thing, never mind where you want to go. I can only begin to imagine the mayhem that could ensue from this. Thank you, Nick. Alessandro Bozzo combined the two prompts and wrote the forgetful elevator and the murderous blood moon. "It's just this way, not much further now," Ivan said, gesturing towards the rusted elevator. Ivan Bloodmoon had paid dearly for dabbling in dark magic. A demon held his family hostage, demanding 100 souls. Ivan never killed anyone himself. He only led them to the possessed elevator that carried them into hell. The spirit inside, bound to the devil, had long forgotten its origin or tally. It only longed for peace. Ivan remembered every face. The promises, money, shelter, pleasure, were just bait. The old forgetful elevator may have lost track, but Ivan never did. The elevator doors groaned shut in front of the dishevelled man, who stood there clueless, with a grimy, toothless grin on his face. A tear slid down Ivan's cheek. "You are murderous, Blood Moon," he whispered to himself, as he turned and walked away. Wow, I cannot believe you put the two together. But it works. An elevator to hell. And there's a real depth here. Can Ivan change his fate somehow? He's the sort of villain that you want to root for, racked with guilt. And the idea of a curse and trying to break a curse is such a tough obstacle for any character to get past. This has so much potential. Thank you, Alessandro. And thanks to everyone who sent in stories. I was just blown away by your creativity. Each one is like a little piece of magic, so individual, like a glimpse into a completely different world. But now it is time to find new worlds, or at least new doorways into worlds that are as yet unseen, unimagined. Let us grasp the door handle together as we reach into the socks of destiny. That's right, and for those who haven't played before or listened before, Exquisite Corpse creates a very weird sentence by pulling together words and phrases from different players. And the sentence goes, describing word noun, action, describing word noun. So it is with some trepidation as ever that I reach into the describing word sock for our first word, which is from Alessandro Bozzo, intricate. Makes me think of patterns maybe, something intricately made. Next word, our noun, is from Paul Macmillan, also known as Bookmarks L&L on X. Welcome to the game, Paul. This is forest spirit. Oh, so an intricate forest spirit. What might that mean? I'm just going to dive straight into the action sock for our next part, which is from, if I can detach it from my finger, Harold. Welcome back to the game, Harold. Jet washed. Okay, don't judge the sentence until it's done. Next word, another describing word. Oh, also from Harold. Never know what's going to come out the socks when. Stoic. Okay. And the final word, who or what was stoic? Oops, it's all getting caught on my hand because I reached right down into the sock. This is from Alessandro Bozzo. Dirigible. Have I even pronounced that correctly? An airship. A stoic airship? Okay, so the entire Exquisite Corpse, and yes, it is ridiculous at first glance. This is part of the challenge to our imaginations, but hey, not everything is going to work necessarily. The intricate forest spirit, jet washed, the stoic dirigible. Okay, so I think I might need some green tea already and see if that helps get my imagination working. So let's give this a bit of a stir. Okay. Okay, so the intricate forest spirit, jet washed, the stoic dirigible. Is it any less ridiculous? I mean, airships might need cleaning. I've no idea if jet washing is appropriate or whether it's best to employ a forest spirit to do the job. What's intricate about this forest spirit? Maybe it's their way of going about it. The jet washing machine they use. Maybe the spout is made from interwoven twigs and straw. Which makes me wonder if the dirigible might also be a fairy-like version of this airship. A magical ship. But where is the tension for a story here? Because that's the only way you can start building on something. There must be some kind of wrongness or a conflict for an opening to an idea. It's someone else's airship. It's stolen. Or the jet washing may damage the dirigible. It's a plan to send the pilot and the passengers who are due to go on the flight on a completely different unexpected journey than where they're supposed to go? What if the spray of the jet wash is kind of like fairy dust? What if it's an enchantment to send the ship off course? Now, why would that be? Who is this forest spirit interfering with this upcoming flight? Is the flight already a kind of secret mission? What's the reason why they're using such an unusual form of transport? And why is it parked in the middle of the forest, which seems kind of dangerous or dodgy, considering this is apparently a world that contains forest spirits who might be cheeky and try and interfere? Could there be a war that's ongoing between peoples or species in this world? I'm not quite sure, but not to worry, because each one of these exquisite corpses is just a beginning. It's just a beginning of a potential idea. So let's reach into the describing word sock for the next one. Let's keep going. So this is from Paul Thomas. Ooh, undead. People, we are approaching Halloween. And it begins here. Unless, of course, this turns out to be completely ridiculous, which it could, let's face it. So, reaching right down to the bottom of the noun sock. Aha! This is also from Paul Thomas. Date. Now that's interesting because a date can obviously be a date on a calendar, which makes this a kind of an abstract concept in a way, a moment in time. In which case, what is an undead date? Is that Halloween itself? Or it could be a person that a character is dating. So let's try for an action and see what happens to this undead date, whatever that may mean. This is from, if I can just take it off my finger, Lee Stokey. Acted precipitously. So that's sort of suddenly and unexpectedly, to make something unexpected happen. So let's get another word, describing word, which is from Alessandro Bozzo. Curious. Okay, so the final word in this very strange sounding exquisite corpse is from Harold. Old dilapidated garden shed. Okay, so the entire exquisite corpse is the undead date acted precipitously about the curious old dilapidated garden shed. So we have a shed that's falling apart at the end of someone's garden. That feels like the definite part of this sentence. Then, well, I'm working backwards here. We have an event or an action that's sudden, unexpected. This feels like a bit of a blind spot because we don't know what that is. Then finally, at the beginning of the sentence, I think we have a choice between Halloween itself, an undead date, or the Day of the Dead, something like that, where sudden, unexpected things happen in or around this falling apart shed. In which case, this would have to mean that the shed is haunted, or there's some horrible creature lurking in there, hiding in there. The other choice around the undead date actually feels quite humorous. It would be someone's out on a date with a zombie. After the restaurant, things get out of hand when the zombie wants to go back to the protagonist's shed. But why? But this question, why? it feels ripe enough to just let that hang. Let that hang in your imagination. It feels kind of sinister, but you don't have to go for the obvious. And if you're writing this as humour, as it very much seems to be pointing that way, I think the real thing to do with that would be to go all out there with a surprise. Don't go with the obvious. I love surprises in stories. That's one of my big things, and that's partly why I play this crazy game. But yeah, there's something in that, I think. If you're in the mood for for Halloween, we're getting there. This could well be the word combination, the undead date, that I'll suggest to you at the end of the show. But let's see. I'm going to pull another word from the socks. This is from Alex from the Spotlight Indie podcast. Sassy. Okay. Who or what was sassy? This is from Mariah. Clairvoyant. A sassy clairvoyant. Okay, a clairvoyant's usually sassy. Do they come across as sassy? I'm not sure. You could turn that into an unusual kind of character idea if you were to try and develop that. This is from Paul Thomas. The action is was afraid of. But what was the sassy clairvoyant afraid of? This is the question. Next word is from Paul Macmillan of Bookmarks L&L. Weary. Could you be afraid of someone or something that's weary? Depends what it is, I guess. Better make it good. Our final word is from Alessandria Bozzo. Oh, porcelain doll. Porcelain dolls are creepy, I think. So the entire Exquisite Corpse is the sassy clairvoyant was afraid of the weary porcelain doll. Could this be any more Halloween? And it's interesting that there seem to be opposites going on in this, because we have a clairvoyant who's usually sassy, that's sort of bold and spirited, who's actually afraid of a weary porcelain doll. I mean, just honing in on these opposites, conflict or opposites, it's a great place to sort of hang out, keep your imagination there when you're trying to think of a way into a story, because this is the very stuff of story. This is where the beginnings of events unfold, where you find a conflict, just something that's not quite right. So this clairvoyant is used to being confident, bold, knowing what to do and say, and something about this doll frightens her. But a weary porcelain doll, I mean, that's even creepier. I think we already have another contender for the prompt that I'll invite you to respond to at the end of this show. In a way, how could it not get Halloween flavoured today? But this always happens every year, although, to be fair, my stories have been getting darker over time, so can I really claim this? But looking again at this very weird Exquisite Corpse, so does someone turn up for a reading, like a palm reading from the clairvoyant, and they have a doll in their handbag or rucksack? Maybe there's a moment of distraction when this customer's attention is elsewhere and they don't notice that the doll's face is poking out of their bag, and the clairvoyant sees it and freezes. Something about it just terrifies her, transfixes her. Why? Does it remind her of someone? Or is there just something creepy about dolls that, she just can't handle? How far are we going to go with this with horror? It really depends on what you like to write, what you like to imagine. I'm not sure I'm often dipping a toe into horror, it seems, without perhaps, leaning towards anything like gore or anything extreme. But yeah, we have some interesting possibilities here with these 3 exquisite corpses. And as usual, I'm going to use the pause button, drink some more green tea, and try and write a scene or a story based on one of these. Wish me luck. Tessa kept her gaze on the door as she pulled another pint. Someone would come in tonight. Someone with a problem. It was a Thursday evening after all. Her kohl-rimmed eyes stared from flyers around the entrance, promising secrets of the future, readings she gave in a small room above the tavern. She didn't like to dress the part, but her manager said people liked it, expected some kind of gypsy past. An aura of mystery, he said. He gifted her an intricately patterned headscarf to wear, as if this made her transformation complete. But at least it covered up her red hair. There was no knowing when her real past would catch up with her, and maybe the dark brown dye, fading so quickly, fooled no one. She set down the pint and counted the man's change, her bangles jingling against her wrists. Even if she wasn't a gypsy, the concept was uncomfortably close. She'd uprooted herself and was ready to flee again the moment her family closed in. Her hands trembled at the thought. Tonight, someone turned out to be Layla, a woman with thin shoulders and an awkward smile. Tessa coaxed her into the chair opposite her. It was a shame about this finicky old office desk, but it was all they had in the upstairs room, and it helped to keep a little distance from the customer. A piece of your past for a glimpse of your future, Tessa said, the way she always did. Layla reached into her shoulder bag and pulled out a small, ragged-looking bear. Tessa's smile broke free as she held out her hand. How sweet! At least Layla hadn't brought a doll. Tessa couldn't abide dolls and their blank, painted-on stares. If she had, you'd have no choice, she silently chided herself. Tessa frowned, just like her grandfather, the toy maker. His message lived on inside her no matter how far she ran from that place. She would spend every day of her life, if necessary, proving to herself that she had just that, a choice. And yet, wasn't it her upbringing, immersed in woodwork, sewing and carving, that had revealed her skill for reading someone's future in the old toys of their childhood? She held the teddy bear in her palm, letting the head flop back. The joint here is weak. I can reinforce it with a few stitches if you like. Distractions. The woman wants a reading. Tessa could see it in Layla's eyes, even as the woman beamed and muttered her thanks. Her customer's pupils were dark with begging desperation. Okay, leave the sewing kit for now. Tessa breathed out, half closing her eyes. The bear's head drooped. The thinness around the neck, that was where the woman had clutched it most as a child. Small, strong fingers. Tessa brushed her own fingertips over the area, the trace of a bald patch in the fur, and sensed the grip of many years ago. You felt trapped, she said, the words forming before she'd had a chance to check them over. Was it true? The grief in the woman's eyes told her, yes. Tessa met Layla's gaze. Customers came to her for the future, not so much for the past, but also to discover how much the two were intertwined. Are you trapped still? It was Layla's turn to drop her eyes. That was a yes then. An abusive relationship? Tessa didn't like to ask outright, but it was often the way, the reason why women came to see her. Mostly, they wanted to know if there was a way out. We are cyclical creatures, Tessa said, cradling the bear. Are you saying... Layla shifted in her chair, swallowed, building up the courage. Do you mean I'm stuck in a cycle? That there's no breaking it? Tessa pinched her lips together before answering. The idea that her own life cycle of running and being caught again could ever be broken was at once vital and impossible. The past clings to us. The pattern is set from an early age, but we can still choose to not be bound by it. She sat up straighter, imploring the woman with a stare that said, "You can do this." Silence spread its dark wings between them. Tessa gave a weak smile. It's easy to say, much harder to do. Now, let me see if I can mend this teddy's neck. It helps me think, it helps me read you. The more I handle him, the more I sense your past and your future. What's his name? Layla giggled, embarrassed. Terence, so old-fashioned. As they chatted, Layla's shoulders finally relaxing, Tessa tugged open the drawer next to her. Rummaging for her sewing kit, her fingers skidded over a smooth, cold surface. She glanced down and leapt out of her seat. "What?" Layla cried, all her calm frightened away. Tessa said nothing. A white face stared up at her from the cradle of the drawer. A porcelain doll. Her brother's calling card. Her toy-making family had found her again. What is going on here? I'm frightened of these toy makers and I don't know why. But it's not a weird creatures story. Unless, of course, the doll comes alive. Oh, so creepy. And that is why, or the beginnings of why, the sassy clairvoyant was afraid of the weary porcelain doll. Well, speaking of creepiness, the next show, number 92, will in fact be the closest to Halloween, as it's on the 25th of October. So it has to be the Halloween special, right? I mean, I can't predict what comes out of the socks, but somehow, I think on previous Halloween shows, it's always ended up being spooky. I mean, if you're in the mood and thinking along those lines, your imagination will just take you there, won't it? We shall see, although certainly you can help make the show Halloween worthy if you fancy having a go at one of the writing prompts from today's episode, as we already have 2 word combinations that are perfect for the spooky season. And I want to know what you are going to do with them, or one of them. Will it be the undead date, if that's a date on the calendar or someone your character is dating? Or will it be the weary porcelain doll, if you want to try your hand at that one? Come on, let's make the Halloween special and Halloweeny together. No gore though, please. While this show isn't for children, there are some younger listeners, and I'm a bit of a wimp myself. It's more about inventiveness, fantasy, psychology. You've heard the kind of thing that comes up on the show, and you know what to do. Go to annatizard.com, hit the contact button on any page footer, and write a paragraph or so. Maybe a couple of paragraphs, since it's a special show, or a poem if that's how you roll. Make sure you get it to me by Friday the 17th of October so I can be sure to capture it in the next recording. Will it be your undead date or your weary porcelain doll that I get to read out? Until next time, go forth and be inspired. I hope you enjoyed today's Brainstoryum. You can find out more about Exquisite Corpse and my series, The Book of Exquisite Corpse, at annatizard.com. Subscribe to my e-newsletter and you'll get volume 1 for free. And while you're there, why not submit a few words to the Socks of Destiny on my play page? You may inspire me or inspire yourself to write a unique new story. See you next time.